Welcome. The topic we'll be discussing in this session is first come first serve CPU scheduling algorithm. So in the last class we have discussed the basics of CPU scheduling. Why should we go for CPU scheduling, or why the operating system should do CPU scheduling, and what are the parameters to measure the performance of various CPU scheduling algorithms. These are the things we have discussed in the last class. So in this session, we'll be discussing one particular CPU scheduling algorithm, which is called as FCFS, first come, first serve scheduling algorithm. So this algorithm is very simple in the sense that whatever the job that is present in the ready queue at first will be will be executed by the processor at first, and the processor will execute this particular job until it completes. Once this particular job is completed, then the processor will take the next job and it will execute. So there is a ready queue, and ready queue contains many jobs or many process, like process 1, process 2, process 3, and so on. So what FCFS algorithm will do in the sense, whatever the job first available in the ready queue, it will take that job or the process, it will execute it, and then it will go to the next job. Once this process is completed, or this process went into IO await, then it will pick up the next process. Then it will execute the next process. Again, it will keep executing the next process as long as the next process completes or it go into IO await. So after that, it will execute the next process. So this type of scheduling is called as first come first serve scheduling. So first come first serve scheduling, basically this is a non-preemptive scheduling. That is, once the processor is allocated with a particular process, the operating system cannot take away the CPU from that particular process. So the processor will be left only if the process completes the execution, or if there is an IO wait. Otherwise, the process will keep on executing. So this is a non-preemptive scheduling. The advantage of this scheduling is it is very simple to implement. So it is very simple and it is very easy to implement. So programmatically, it is very easy to implement this particular scheduling. But the disadvantage is it has a very high average waiting time. Generally, first come first serve algorithm, first come first serve CPU scheduling algorithm, it has a very high average waiting time. So let us say WTS waiting time. And also it has another drawback, that it is a non-preemptive scheduling. So non-preemptive scheduling in the sense you are giving the CPU to a particular process as long as it want to execute. So which is not an advisable situation. So it is disastrous. Okay. So the second disadvantage is because of its non-preemptive nature of scheduling. Okay. So these are the this is how this particular algorithm works, and this is the advantage and its disadvantage. The advantage is it is very simple to implement, and the main disadvantage is it has a very high average waiting time, and also as it is a non-preemptive scheduling, the processor cannot be taken away from the CPU from the particular process whenever the operating system wants it, which is not advisable. Okay, so now let us discuss how this algorithm works with some example, right? So let us consider this particular scenario. Currently, the ready queue contains three processes, P1, P2, and P3. Ready queue contains three processes, P1, P2, and P3. And this is the burst time. That is how much time each of this particular process needs to complete in milliseconds. Process 1 needs 24 milliseconds to complete. And process 2 needs 3 milliseconds. And process 3 needs 3 milliseconds. So these three are in the ready queue, and let us assume that these process are in this order. That is, first there is a process P1 in the queue, then the process P2 is in the queue, and then the process P3 is in the queue. So we know that this first come first serve algorithm, how it works in the sense, it will first take the first process, it will complete its execution. Then it will go for the next process. It will take it and it will finish its execution. Then it will go for the next process. So let us try to draw a Gantt chart. There is a Gantt chart for this particular process, like how it works. So let me represent this as a Gantt chart. So the first process available in the queue is P1. So CPU will first execute the process P1. Okay. And P1 needs how much time? P1 needs 24 milliseconds. Its starting time is 0th milliseconds and it ends at the beginning of the 24th millisecond. Okay, because it needs 24 milliseconds. Once P1 completes, then P2 will get the CPU access. P2 will execute for 3 milliseconds. It is starting at 24th millisecond and it will complete at 27th millisecond. So it is executing for 3 milliseconds. It starts at 24th millisecond and it ends at 27th millisecond. Then P3. P3 needs another 3 millisecond. So it starts at 27th millisecond and it ends at 30th millisecond. So this is the Gantt chart. So first you should represent this as a Gantt chart. So when you represent it as a Gantt chart, you come to know like how this process gets executed. Now let us try to identify the waiting time of each of this process. So the waiting time of process 1, waiting time for process 1 is, process 1 is not waiting at all. The moment it comes in the ready queue, it is immediately given CPU because it is starting at 0th time. Okay, so it is no waiting time. So there is no waiting time for process 1. Okay, process 2, the waiting time for process 2, W2 is waiting time. And in the subscript, I am mentioning the process. The waiting time for process 2 is 24 milliseconds. It is waiting for 24 milliseconds, okay, which is huge. And the waiting time for process 3 is, waiting time for process 3 is starting only at 27th millisecond. So we are assuming all jobs arrive at the same time, T0, but it is arriving in this order, P1, P2, P3. First P1, next P2, then P3. So the moment P1 comes, it got the CPU. But P2 is waiting for 24 milliseconds and P3 is waiting for 27 milliseconds. This is the individual waiting time for each of the process. Now to calculate the average waiting time, now if you want to calculate the average waiting time, you just add all these individual waiting time and divide it by the number of process. So the average waiting time will be equal to the waiting time of process 1, that is 0, plus the waiting time of process 2, that is 24, plus the waiting time of process 7, that is 27. Okay, so 0 plus 24 plus 27 by 3. Okay, so that will be the waiting time. Okay, so which is how much it is, yeah, I think it is 51 by 3. Yeah, 51 by 3. So this much will be the waiting time of this particular, this much will be the average waiting time of this particular scenario. Okay. So which is actually the waiting time in this case is the average waiting time of FCFS algorithm. That is first come first serve algorithm will be normally high. So that is the drawback with this particular algorithm. Now let us consider another case. That is if this particular process is executed in a different way, then what will happen? So before that, let me just go through whatever we have discussed. So what we have discussed so far in the sense, these processes are coming are arriving at the same time, T naught. Okay, all these processes are arriving at the same time, T naught, but they are arriving in this order. P1 comes first, then P2, and then P3. And the Gantt chart looks something like this. Okay, so this is a queue. In the queue, at first you have P1, then P2, and P3. So P1 comes first. P1 comes first. So this is the Gantt chart. So P1 gets the CPU at first, and it is executing for 24 milliseconds because it needs its burst time is 24 milliseconds. And P2 got CPU at 24th millisecond, and it is executing for 3 millisecond. That is, it completes at 27th millisecond. And P3 got the CPU at 27th millisecond, and its burst time is 3 millisecond, and it is executing up to 30th millisecond. Now the waiting time for P1 is 0. It is not at all waiting. For P2 it is 24, and P3 it is 27. So the average waiting time is it is 17. Okay, so this is the average waiting time in this particular scenario. Now let us consider another scenario. Let us consider another scenario. Suppose the process arrived in this order. The burst time is same. P1 takes 24 milliseconds, P2 takes 23 milliseconds, and P3 takes 3 milliseconds. But we are just changing one thing. The job is arriving in this order, P2, P3, P1. Okay, now how the Gantt chart will look like? Now the Gantt chart will be different. All the three jobs are arriving at the same time, but the order changes. Now P2 comes first. So P2 will execute for 3 milliseconds. That is 0th millisecond to 3 millisecond, 3rd millisecond. And P3 will execute for the next 3 millisecond. That is 3rd millisecond to 6th millisecond. Okay, and then P1 will execute for 24 millisecond. That is 6th millisecond to 30th millisecond, right? This much time P1 will execute. Now let us see what is the average waiting time. Now let us see what's the waiting time of P1. The waiting time of P1 is now only 6 milliseconds because it started at 6th millisecond. Okay, so it is 6 millisecond, and the waiting time of P2 is 0. It is not at all waiting. There is no waiting for P2. It starts immediately once it enters the ready queue, and the waiting time for P3 is 3 millisecond. Okay, so now the average waiting time, it becomes what? The average waiting time, let me call average waiting time is equal to 6 plus 0 plus 3, okay, by number of process, which is 3. So now the average waiting time, it comes down to 9. Now the average 6 plus 3, 9 by 3. Now the average waiting time, it comes down to 3 milliseconds. It is just 3 milliseconds. But previously it is 17 millisecond, which is really high. Okay. So, but generally in what order the process comes, that is not in the control. Okay. It is not in anybody's control. So generally, if you see the performance of first come first serve scheduling algorithm, it has a very high average waiting time. Okay, so this is the core issue with this algorithm. Otherwise, its implementation is very simple, right? So now the Gantt chart of this particular order of the process will look something like this. Okay, first P2 gets the CPU and it executes for 3 milliseconds. Then P3 got the CPU, it executes for 6 milliseconds. Then P1 executes for 24 milliseconds. So the waiting time for P1 is 6 milliseconds, P2 is 0 millisecond, P3 is 3 milliseconds. So the average waiting time is 3. Okay. So this is about first come first serve scheduling. So and there is another issue with the first come first serve scheduling. So that problem is called as convoy effect. So let us try to understand what is meant by convoy effect. So assume that assume that there is one CPU bound process and there are many IO bound process in the ready queue. Assume that there is one CPU bound process and there are many IO bound process in the ready queue. Then it will lead to a situation, and that situation is called as convoy effect. So what is that situation? So so we know that CPU bound process are the one which spends more time in computation and less time in IO operation. And IO bound process are the one which spends more time in IO operation and less time in computation. So here in the ready queue you have one CPU bound process and many IO bound process. Okay. So let me call the CPU bound process as P underscore C. Okay. And there are many IO bound process. So other process let us assume as IO bound process. So there is a process P naught, there is a process P1. Like that, say there are 3 to 5 process. All these are IO bound process. Now this scenario will create an issue, and that issue is called as convoy effect. So what is convoy effect? Let us try to understand. So 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 assume that initially CPU is executing. Initially CPU is executing. So this order can be in the ready queue. This can be in any order. It is not that the CPU bound process should be first. Even it can be the last also. That's not an issue. Okay. Or you can assume that the CPU bound process is in the last. Here is the CPU bound process. Okay. And we can consider this as P4. There is another process. This is also IO bound. So what happens in the sense P4 will come to CPU at first. So we are discussing first come first serve. And P4 is the IO bound process. So it will use CPU for a very short duration. Say it may use for 5 milliseconds or 3 milliseconds or whatever it may be. And then it will go into IO wait. Because it is IO bound process, so it will spend most of the time in IO operation. So it will get into IO wait. And then P0 will execute. P0 is also an IO bound process. So it will also use CPU for a shorter duration of time, say 3 milliseconds or 5 milliseconds or 6 milliseconds, whatever it may be. And then it will also go into IO wait. Then P1 will use the CPU again for a shorter duration of time, and this will also get into IO wait. Then again P2 will use the CPU for a shorter duration of time, and this will also get into IO wait. Now PC will come. PC is the CPU bound process. So it will use CPU for a long time. It will keep using the CPU for a long time. And now by this time, all this IO bound process, it might have completed the task and it may come into ready queue and it is waiting. So how many process? 4 processes are waiting for one process PC to complete. One process PC to complete. But it may keep on using the CPU for more time. So it is using the CPU for 4 minutes, which is very high in terms of computer timing. Okay, it is keep using the CPU for 4 minutes. After 4 minutes, this particular process PC, that is CPU bound process, it went into one IO wait. But it is a CPU bound process, so its IO wait will be, again it will be short. So after some short duration of time, again it will get into ready queue. Again it will get into ready queue, and by that time it comes into ready queue. These process, all these are IO bound process. Again it will use the CPU for a short duration, and again this will go into using IO devices. Okay, so as a result, what happens in the sense? As a result, what happens in the sense? Uh, the problem with this situation is, let me draw the diagram more clearly. So the problem with this situation is almost all process will be waiting for one process to complete. Almost all process will be waiting for one process to complete, and the IO devices will not be effectively utilized. Okay, so 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 most of the time here the scenario will be like what, in the sense the CPU will be getting used by the CPU bound process, which is PC, which is PC. That is the CPU bound process will be keep using the CPU for most of the time, and the IO bound process will spend most of the time waiting in the ready queue to get the CPU access. And the IO bound process, which are like P0, P1, P2, P3, all these IO bound process will be most of the time where it will spend in the sense it will spend in the uh, ready queue to get the CPU access. Okay, so because because why this scenario created in the sense because the CPU bound process will be mostly using the CPU, and whenever it needs IO, it uses short duration and it will come back to ready queue. By the time these process will get the CPU, but it will use CPU only for short duration. Again, it will go into IO. Okay, but after it completes IO and it comes back again, the CPU bound process will be using the processor, and these devices will be waiting. When these devices are waiting, what happens? They are not using the CPU, and also the IO devices are also not getting utilized. Okay, the IO devices are also not getting effectively utilized. So this problem is called as uh, convoy effect. So this is the another drawback with FCFS algorithm. Okay, so that's it about first come first serve scheduling algorithm. So its advantages, it is simple to implement, and its disadvantages, it has a very generally it has a very high average waiting time. And another disadvantage is convoy effect, and another disadvantage is it uses the non-preemptive scheduling, which may be disastrous at times. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you.